Why are we so fascinated by the dark side? Sure, heroes are great. They save the day, they do the right thing. But let's be honest, it's the villains that often steal the show. From their complicated backstories to their unpredictable actions, villains tap into something deeper in us. There's just something thrilling about characters who don't play by the rules, who challenge the hero, and make us question, what would I do in that situation? The truth is, we're drawn to villains because they represent the parts of ourselves and society that we don't talk about. They embody rebellion, power, and freedom. The freedom to do what they want, when they want, without caring about consequences. That kind of boldness, it's exciting to watch, and it makes us reflect on the limitations we face in our own lives. Then there's complexity. Heroes? They can be predictable, but villains? They often have more depth. They have motives, some dark, some tragic, some even understandable. And that complexity makes them more relatable than we'd like to admit. Ever found yourself relating to a villain? It's more common than you'd think. Villains aren't just one-dimensional bad guys. They often have backstories that make them complex, even sympathetic. And that's where the psychology kicks in. Take the idea of moral ambiguity. Villains sometimes exist in a gray area between right and wrong, where their motivations are understandable, even if their actions aren't. That kind of complexity makes us think, maybe they're not all bad after all. It blurs the line between good and evil, and suddenly, we're seeing the world from their perspective. Then there's the appeal of power and freedom. Villains often act without the moral constraints that tie down the hero. They take what they want, live by their own rules, and for many of us, that's thrilling to watch. It speaks to a part of us that longs for freedom from societal expectations. Think about some of the most iconic villains. Loki, the Joker, Darth Vader. We don't just hate them. We get drawn into their story, their struggles, and sometimes we even root for them. That's the power of a well-written villain. They make us question our own beliefs about right and wrong. Villains don't just entertain us. They give us an emotional outlet. The chaos they create, the moral lines they cross, it's like they're unleashing all the things we keep bottled up inside. That's called catharsis, an emotional release. When we read about a villain causing mayhem, it lets us experience our own dark thoughts, but from a safe distance. We live out fantasies of rebellion, revenge, or even just breaking the rules without actually doing it ourselves. It's like experiencing a roller coaster of emotions, all through the villain's story. Then, there's the satisfaction of conflict. Villains keep the story exciting by challenging the hero at every turn. Their presence forces tension, drama, and the eventual victory of the hero feels so much more rewarding because of the villain's opposition. But here's the kicker. Sometimes, we don't even want them to lose. Think of those redemption arcs. When a villain shows even a glimmer of remorse, we're hooked. Suddenly, we're rooting for them to change, to get a second chance. And when they do, it's one of the most satisfying payoffs in storytelling. Villains don't just disappear from our minds once the story ends. In fact, they tend to stick with us even more than the heroes do. But why is that? One reason is that villains challenge us. They make us question our own values, our beliefs about good and evil, and sometimes even our sense of justice. That intellectual engagement makes them more memorable. They stay with us because they've made us think. Villains are also unpredictable. You never know what they're going to do next, and that tension creates a lasting emotional impact. Whether it's their ultimate downfall or a shocking act of betrayal, villains give us the emotional roller coaster we crave in stories. Finally, it's fear. Fear is a powerful emotion, and villains tap into that instinct. Whether it's fear of what they might do or fear of what they represent, that intensity leaves an imprint on our memory. From their complex motivations to their lasting impact, villains will always have a special place in storytelling. After all, a great story just wouldn't be the same without a compelling villain.